All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. You ready to jump into something interesting?
Always.
Okay, good. Well, today we are diving into the world of modern dating.
Okay.
And to help guide our deep dive, we're going to be turning to the CEO and founder of Hinge, Justin McLeod.
He's got some interesting things to say.
Yeah, we're pulling from his interview on the Diary of a CEO podcast. And this is not your typical, I started this in my dorm room tech CEO story.
Wow.
He really gets into it. He talks about his own dating struggles, and he even calls himself the world's worst dating app user.
He does. And you know what's interesting about it is that he really does a good job in the interview of kind of weaving his personal story with the design of the app.
Yeah.
And you can see how one influenced the other and vice versa.
Totally. And I think he's almost a little bit self-aware in that too. He's like, yeah, I designed this because I'm kind of the worst at this, so hopefully I can design something that helps people like me.
Yeah, and he talks about all the classic mistakes people make on dating apps early on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the filtered photos and the vague group shots.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff.
You don't know which one he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or the one-word answers to prompts.
The worst.
All the things that people do that just, they're not putting their best foot forward.
We've all done it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we've all at least received it on the other end.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing. This guy did not just accept this. He decided to do something about it.
That's right.
Okay.
He did.
And it all started, believe it or not, with a crush matching tool on Facebook.
Yes. Back in 2011.
Back in 2011.
Before dating apps were really a thing.
Before dating apps. Imagine.
It's fascinating to think about. He was trying to solve a problem for someone else. The student body president at Harvard had this idea for a crush matching event.
Okay.
And McLeod, being the entrepreneurial spirit that he is, was like, oh, I can build that?
Of course.
And so they created this whole system on Facebook where you could list your crushes. And then if two people matched, they would find out.
That's kind of fun.
Which is kind of an interesting concept, but also kind of a dead end, you know?
Yeah.
Because, finding out is only half the battle.
Right.
Right.
What are you going to do? You're just going to, show up at their dorm room? I don't know.
Right, exactly.
I was probably pre-Tinder.
This was pre-Tinder.
Yeah, yeah.
So online dating still had this huge stigma attached to it.
Yeah, it wasn't cool yet.
Right, exactly.
People thought of it as oh, that's what you do if you, can't meet anyone in real life.
Exactly.
You've failed at the normal way.
And I think he recognized that. I think he recognized that there was this gap in the market.
Okay.
That young people, especially, wanted something that was simple, easy to use, and most importantly, stigma-free.
Yeah.
And so that's when he had the idea to transition this Facebook project into a dedicated app.
Okay.
And he wanted to connect people through their friends of friends.
Oh, I see. So still keeping that kind of networked approach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Taking some of the awkwardness out of online dating, hopefully.
Okay.
And so Hinge was born.
Hinge was born.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing from there.
Not at all. Initially, he called it Secret Agent Cupid.
What?
Can you believe it?
No.
And the interface, apparently, was super complicated. Users were really confused by it. They almost went bankrupt in the early days. He talks about sitting on the floor of his co-working space the night before their big relaunch party, crying.
No.
Because the App Store hadn't approved the updated app yet.
Wait, hold up. He'd already spent his last $25,000 on this launch party,
Yes.
And the app isn't even ready?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
That takes guts.
Talk about a leap of faith.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did they pull it off?
Miraculously, the App Store approved the app overnight.
Oh, my God.
It was a mad dash to the finish line, but they made it.
Talk about cutting it close. Okay, so the party's a go. But were people actually excited to download this probably still pretty glitchy app?
It was a huge success. 2,000 people showed up to this party.
Wow.
And to get in, you had to download Hinge.
That's pretty smart.
So that was a brilliant move because it created instant social proof. You see all these other people using it.
It must be cool.
It must be cool, right?
Yeah.
More acceptable.
Okay, so Hinge is the hottest ticket in town. They're racking up users left and right. It's all uphill from here, right?
You'd think so, but the world of tech, especially the dating app scene, moves so fast.
Oh,
This was right around the time Tinder exploded onto the scene.
Ah, yes, Tinder, the OG swipe left, swipe right experience. Everyone remembers where they were when they first swiped.
Exactly, and Tinder's whole thing was speed and simplicity. Suddenly, Hinge's focus on friends of friends made it feel a bit, well, slow, even boring in comparison.
It's interesting how our perception of what's cool or desirable can shift so quickly, especially in the digital world.
Absolutely. And this shift really put Hinge in a tough spot. They wanted to be the more serious dating app, but they hadn't quite figured out how to translate that into a compelling user experience. Then, to make matters worse, that infamous 2016 Vanity Fair article, The Dawn of the Dating Apocalypse, came out.
Oh, wow, I remember that article. It basically blamed dating apps for ruining romance.
Pretty much. And guess
Yeah.
who was featured prominently? Hinge McLeod actually talks about how much that article bothered him. He felt like he'd unintentionally contributed to this culture of superficiality, which was the opposite of what he'd hoped to create.
So what did he do? Did he just give up, scrap the whole thing, and become a monk or something?
He seriously considered it. Hinge's growth had plateaued. They were running out of money. Investors were losing faith. But right before throwing in the towel, something really interesting happened. McLeod went on a date with a journalist named Deborah, who'd had this incredible experience with Hinge.
Okay, I'm intrigued. This is clearly not just a random coffee date.
Not at all. Deborah had downloaded Hinge and ended up meeting someone she fell head over heels for. She was writing a story about it and reached out to McLeod for an interview.
Wow, talk about a full circle moment. Did they fall for each other too?
This is where it gets really juicy. See, Deborah had been in a similar situation years earlier, a missed connection, a love that got away. She told McLeod he shouldn't make the same mistake, that he should go after the woman he still had feelings for.
Wait a minute, who are we talking about here? I thought he was all in on Hinge at this point.
Remember Kate? The girl from the stairwell back in college. The one he had that epic on-again, off-again thing with.
No way, the one that got away, she's back in the picture.
She's back. They'd gone their separate ways after college, and McLeod had always wondered, what if? He thought he'd messed things up too badly to ever have another shot. But Deborah's story made him realize he might be making the same mistake all over again.
Oh man, the drama. So did he reach out to Kate after all those years?
I did. And get this. She was living in Switzerland, engaged to be married. But she agreed to meet up with him.
Okay, this is straight out of a movie. I'm on the edge of my seat here.
They talked for hours, reconnected, and at the knee, she called off the wedding.
Whoa. Are you serious? They actually ended up together.
They did. McLeod and Kate got married, but it wasn't all smooth sailing from there. He's very honest about the fact that the honeymoon phase doesn't last forever. Even when you think you found the one, they had to work at it, just like any couple.
This is where it gets really interesting for me because you can see how this whole experience completely changed his perspective on dating and relationships.
Exactly. It was a huge turning point, not just for McLeod personally, but for Hinge as a company. He realized he'd been approaching dating with this idealized checklist in his head. Looks, job, shared interests. And it made him miss out on real connection. Even with Kate, who he clearly had this deep connection with, he almost let her slip away because he was so caught up in his own head.
That's such a relatable struggle, though. How many of us have these mental checklists that prevent us from seeing the potential in someone who might not tick every box?
It's so common. And McLeod realized that Hinge, as it was structured, was actually feeding into that superficiality. So he decided to make a radical change. They threw out their old metrics of user engagement and retention.
Wait, seriously? That's like the opposite of what most social media companies do.
I know, right? But McLeod had this epiphany. If they could create an app that genuinely helped people connect offline, the rest would fall into place. They redesigned the entire app with one goal in mind, getting people on good dates.
Okay, I have to know more. How do you even begin to redesign an app with that kind of purpose? What did they actually change? Okay, I have to know more. How do you even begin to redesign an app with that kind of purpose? What did they actually change?
They completely overhauled the app, from the prompts to the way you interact with profiles. Remember how McLeod talked about being the world's worst, those one-word answers?
Oh yeah, definitely guilty of seeing and maybe sending a few of those myself.
Well, Hinge revamped their prompts to encourage more thoughtful responses. They wanted people to showcase their personalities and values, not just their best selfies. Instead of mindless swiping through hundreds of profiles, they slowed things down, encouraging users to like specific photos or prompts that genuinely spark their interest.
So you're telling me they actually penalize people for treating it like a game? I bet that went over well with the casual swipers.
It was a gamble, for sure. Initially, their user base actually shrank a bit. But McLeod knew that to build the kind of community he envisioned he needed to attract the right users, the ones who were genuinely looking for connection, not just validation.
He was willing to sacrifice short-term growth for long-term vision. Not many CEOs would have the guts to do that.
It's a testament to his belief in what he was building. And it paid off. The people who stuck around loved the new Hinge, and they told their friends. Word of mouth became their most powerful marketing tool.
There's nothing like an authentic recommendation from someone you trust.
Exactly. And it's not just about finding love either. McLeod talks about Hinge's mission as fostering intimate connection to create a less lonely world. He sees a direct link between the rise of social media and the increase in loneliness, and he believes Hinge can be part of the solution.
Okay, that's a big claim. Can an app really solve something as complex as loneliness?
It's a complex issue for sure,
Yeah.
but what's fascinating is that Hinge is actually putting in the work to understand the science of connection. They have this whole research arm called Hinge Labs, where they study what makes people successful daters, what leads to meaningful interactions, and how to build vulnerability.
So it's like they're going beyond just matching people based on algorithms. They're trying to understand the human element of connection.
Exactly. And McLeod believes AI can play a huge role in this, not in a creepy robot way, but as a personalized matchmaker. Imagine an app that actually gets to know you, your values, your relationship patterns, and then connects you with people who are genuinely compatible with you.
That would be amazing. No more endless swiping, no more awkward first dates that go nowhere, just
Yeah.
real genuine connections.
That's the dream. And it all comes back to intentionality. Hinge's whole philosophy is about being intentional with your dating life. Being clear about what you want, putting in the effort to find it, and being open to real connection, even if it means deleting the app.
Wow, what a journey. From a last-ditch effort to find a girlfriend to a complete reimagining of how we approach dating in the digital age.
It really makes you think about your own approach to dating, doesn't it? Are you optimizing for superficial criteria or real connection?
That's the question, isn't it? So what can you do, dear listener, to be more intentional in your own dating life? Maybe it's ditching the checklist, being more vulnerable on your profile, or simply putting yourself out there with a clear intention to connect. Whatever it is, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought. Let us know what resonated with you, and until next time, happy dating.